Monica, Kelly, and everyone joining us, it's an honor to be able to talk about HR's role as a strategic business partner. If you haven't watched the two presentations that we just finished, you should actually pause this, go back, watch those, and then jump back in. This is the Q&A portion of our webinar, and I'm excited to be able to go a little bit deeper and ask some questions. So, ready, set?
Ready,
Absolutely.
set.
At what point in time, Kelly, I'll kick it to you first, Monica, you second. At what point in time should HR really start to be thinking about making the shift from administrative to strategic? Do they wait until they're just frustrated, or what's the impetus here? What is that signal that they say, now we need to make the shift?
The key word is they shouldn't be waiting, right? The shift is yesterday, and so if you haven't started the transition, you really need to start working on it. The value that this role has to the future of companies, you hear, if you read any of Forbes or Harvard Business Review, the future of the C-suite is the chief talent or people officer, because people are what it is that helps make a business be successful. And so if you're not making that transition, this is the day you start making that transition, because it's so critical for the people in that business, for the success of your overall organization, to be able to continue and thrive in the economy that we have today.
Monica, anything you'd add to that? You know, now's the time, and what else should we watch out for or look for?
The other thing I would say is, especially if you're about to scale your business. I think one of the things that I observe is when organizations are not planning for or haven't been accustomed to growth, they can get a little complacent with the way that they're operating. And so I can't agree more with you, right? It's like start now if you're not already going that direction. Because you don't know when your organization's going to grow. Of course, you want it to grow, but you better be ready. And the HR function and the people operations functions have to be ready.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
The only other thing I'd add to it is unless your house isn't in order. So if if the foundation of the HR organization has not been built and established, it's really hard to become a strategic partner when you're still spending your time cleaning up your house, whether it's compliance, if it's policies, procedures, how-to guides, all those processes and procedures that have to be there foundationally. So if you don't have that, that's really starting ground, right? Implementing HCM, getting the policies and compliance in place, and then it allows you and frees you to be able to evolve into that strategic HR business partner.
So then I want to ask you what that looks like. So let's say the foundation is in place and you want to continue to move forward, the business is growing, and the solo HR practitioner that's watching this, is thinking to themselves, well, one day I would like to be in your spot, that HR executive. What is the most important aspect of the position as the head of HR? Monica, would you answer this one first?
I sure will. I think first vision. Vision tied to the strategy. Vision that is aligned to where the company is going to go, where we are today, what are our key priorities from a talent perspective, and ensuring that you understand it intimately. I mean, I think, Kelly, I loved how you talked about, kind of understanding the work of every single person in the organization, so that when you're thinking about talent and you're thinking about succession and you're thinking about what really matters to help that company sustain growth, if you are not thinking about those problems that the CEO is worried about, and you're busy, with what I would call, what you just commented about, busy with the foundation that hasn't been built yet, you will be way behind as the company grows and needs to sustain its growth. And then talent will become an obstacle instead of talent being a driver of the business success. So, I think that would be the biggest thing I'd say has to be a priority for the organization.
Where does it come from? Let's say I want to have it, and you're saying, hey, have vision, and I think to myself, I don't got it. Where do we get it? How do we get it? Where do we build the vision?
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I'll say I read a lot, and I talk to a lot of people. I do a lot of networking, right?
Okay.
I'm sure most executives do, but I start with both looking deeply at the strategy, consulting with my leadership team, and painting a parallel vision to what they're putting in place. Granted, not every person has the capability as a visionary, and that's the other thing I think. Someone that wants to be in a seat like ours does have to recognize that is a core skill that's required to be able to do that. And it's not just setting the vision, it's communicating it and reminding people of it and setting your metrics around it and watching it You commented about monthly dashboards,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Use the data to indicate whether or not you're successfully driving the business forward or not. And so that's a really great question, and it's required. It must be something that a leader in our seats can do.
Absolutely.
There's one word in your presentation that really stands out to me that I think in part answers the question. You mentioned the word wonder. You've probably asked the question, I wonder what would make this better. I think that's the beginning or the fuzzy front end of the process. And then you reach out to the network, and then you watch the webinar, and then you listen to the
Exactly.
podcast, and you get to answer the question
Absolutely.
of, I wonder what would make HR's performance more strategic,
Yeah.
more aligned with the growth of the business.
Yeah.
I just
Well-
think that word wonder really stands out.
I appreciate catching that because my team will say that too, and now they're starting to use that word. So like I'll be talking to the team, and I'm about to say something like, "Let me guess, you're wondering again, aren't you?" Right? It's being curious, right? Just being curious to the point where I ask all of them to do that too. Like, I wonder what would happen if. And when we talk about the turnover that we've been able to kind of reduce by right half, we've cut it over half of our turnover since I joined. I don't take personal credit for that. I look at it as I kept asking, I wonder what the employees really need from us. I wonder what is going wrong when an employee that just started, 3 months ago leaves and didn't stay with us. Why? I ask why all the time.
Yep.
And I think I encourage my team to do the same.
So a lot of, in my words, not theirs, I see a lot of solo HR practitioners struggling to figure out what's just one small baby step that I can take. And so maybe they don't have the foundation, Kelly, and so that baby step is, the foundation. Or maybe they have the foundation, Monica, and they're thinking, what's the next best step? So can you answer that question from both perspectives of what's maybe a good next step, a baby step for that solo HR practitioner to take?
Yeah. I could probably talk for hours on a lot of different little baby steps, and it really depends on where the organization is at. Because as you guys were just talking, I was thinking about some of the smaller companies don't even have a strategy, right? So it's really hard for HR to come alongside and create a vision because a strategy doesn't exist today. And I think the number one, and Monica had shared this, is being curious. I see my role is to find and think of the questions before my CEO and president ask them, right? To what's keeping them up at night, I should be ahead of that. And how do I make sure that I'm coming to them with, have we thought about what if we did? How could we, kind of ideas or brainstorms? And if you don't have that yet, then first and foremost is to join a peer group. Because when I look at the growth I've received over the years, there's been somebody that's influenced me, somebody that gave me a carrot, that helped me see that there is this next step that I could take. It's being hungry for what you don't know, not being afraid of what's behind that closed door. It is asking why over again. I mean, my first week, by the end of the first week, the HR director told me, please don't ask why again, because you're not going to like the answer. I'm like, no, I will keep peeling back the layers of the onion, because until you get to the core, you don't really know how to build your strategy or vision. And it can be as simple as start with a 1-year roadmap of what your deliverables are, then go to a 3-year, and then go to a 5-year, and then start influencing, even in discussions, even if you're not at a leadership team level, is to ask those leaders, like, what is your strategy, your vision? Where do you want to see your department in 1 to 3 years? What would you like to see from me and my team? Department of One, it's really easy to go on those discussions and say, what do you like that I'm doing that you want me to keep doing? What am I not doing that can add value? A lot of leaders know that already. So how do you come alongside? And that goes to the collaborate side, is what do they need from you? And when you start meeting their needs, you're going to get invited to more discussions because they see that you're able to come alongside and help solve challenges that they didn't know how to solve on their own.
Anything you'd add?
The things I would add, 2 things, and I agree with everything you've said. When they come alongside that leader, bringing their best thinking. Because it's easy to ask a leader, how can I best help you? But if they're used to seeing that individual, that HR professional, as a tactical and transactional partner, they'll just think, well, gosh, could I have this person make a copy of the presentation I'm going to do this afternoon? Or, right?
Yes.
If they don't see you bringing your thought leadership. So bringing your thought leadership, having an opinion, sharing your opinion, building your confidence in that, right? Yeah. And then the other thing I'd say is do a time study on your own week. right? Like just that's what I've done at times when I've had someone that was really struggling, and I'd look at their kind of pie chart, like how much time are you spending on these tasks versus the strategic tasks, and we did it for a couple weeks, and before we knew it, it was like, oh, now I see why I'm not ending up in this space of partnering strategically, because I'm showing up in all this work, still needs to be done, but then I can ask the question, why?
Absolutely.
Why are you doing that this way? Aren't there 3 other ways you could have done that task? Isn't this person over here equipped to do that too? So you could delegate, right? All the different ways that a person can carve out their time to make it more strategic.
What's as both of you have experienced going down this journey for decade plus, what's maybe one thing that was really tough to confront or face that you want to give someone a heads up on as they watch this? Watch out for this as you go down this process. Like for just a general example, it's fear of the unknown. We don't have a 1-year plan, and I'm going to ask for a plan, and then what are they going to say? Like, are things going to get combative because all of a sudden there's an expectation that's not met, and that's like the source of a lot of conflict. So it's just fear of the unknown, generally speaking, I think is one of the things that could hold people back. But what else have you seen and experienced?
I'd say HR professionals generally, if you use DISC or Insights, are yellow-green, right? They don't like to not be liked. If you want to be a strategic HR business partner, you got to be comfortable with not being liked at times. And I've honestly struggled with that at times. Like, why am I still struggling to be part of this conversation? Why won't they hear what I'm trying to say? And in reality, I haven't listened well enough, right? And so it's being able to be self-reflective, but not take anything personally in the journey, because either they've experienced you different for years, if you're in the same company, and now you're trying to show up different, that's gonna take longer than those of us that have walked in new into organizations that we're an unknown entity, and so we can gain that traction a little bit faster than if you're evolving into something different. So one, give it time, and don't be afraid of not being everybody's friend. Those that have joined HR because it's the fun department and you get to be everybody's friend. When you're a coach and consultant, you have to have tough conversations, and that includes up. I'm sure Monica the same. I've had to coach my leaders, right? And in some cases, you might be putting your job at risk by having those conversations, but that's what you're signing up for, is to help do what's best for the business at the end of the day.
You said it very well, Kelly, and I would say the biggest thing for me is courage. Courage. If we're doing our work well in HR and people operations and people and culture, people and talent, we are courageous to bring up the big pink elephant in the room that nobody else wants to talk about, and recognize that you are absolutely at risk of potentially someone not liking the answer or not liking having the tough conversations. And here in Minnesota, of course, we all know what Minnesota nice is, right? So, I had to learn through my journey that it doesn't help for me to be the one that sits quietly and lets the uncomfortable tension just sit. And so as an executive in the space, I encourage all of my team to say, if there's something that has to be said, we owe it to the organization to say it. And, and to your point, that's not always liked, but when it's appreciated, you're in the right place. You're in the right culture, and an empowering culture that you can grow and develop the function of HR and grow as a strategic partner.
So you have to address the elephant in the room. You're not always liked. It's a lot of work. And it takes decades in some cases. So is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth it?
Absolutely.
Why is it worth it?
Absolutely. Exactly,
What's
right?
the best part about
It is
the
so much
result?
fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it brings such reward. And the reason I joined a company like Nortec, the company I work for now, and in this smaller environment, is every single day I get to get up and I see the impact I made yesterday, and I get to make more of that impact today. And the level of impact we get to make on every single employee that works for our company is incredibly rewarding. So, and I get to go to bed at night knowing that, hey, you know what? It might not have been an easy day, but I accomplished a lot. And that's incredibly rewarding.
How about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I look at how I do what I do on a daily basis, it is that impact on, at Advite, we're 900 employees. It's not just the employees, it's their families, right? And when you can help employees believe in what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, who you're doing for, and they love how they're spending their time. We're all at work way more then we're with our families. And when you can have that shared vision and mission, and from an HR executive, when you can have employees, frontline employees who you barely know and wish you knew better, can come up to you and talk about the things that you've done that have impacted them or their leader and their experience at the company you're with. What is the saying where, I mean, things that are easy, I mean, you don't have the same kind of reward, right? And that's, yes, it's tough, and there are some really tough, ugly days, but it's those milestones along the way that make us crazy people come back for more on a daily basis, because you can really feel you can feel the energy it brings to the organization when it's done right.
I like to say the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yes, there you go.
It absolutely is.
Absolutely.
So what's next for the HR profession? I mean, I can't help but think about AI. I get asked about AI all the time, and I think about all the different applications and how AI is impacting every functional area of the business. So if you want to talk about AI for a couple minutes, great. Or if there's something else that's really significantly impacting the profession, what is it?
Well, and I would say I definitely agree with AI, but I am definitely not the expert in how that's going to get woven into our function in my company today. I will say that it has to find a way into building efficiencies and finding ways to give us better intelligence about how we work every day. I would say understanding our businesses well enough to even not only just advise, you said it really well, Kelly, not just advise on what could it be done, how could it be used for our function, but for the business, right? And understanding the technology well enough to be able to speak intelligently about helping to drive different decisions on talent in that evolution of AI. I mean, I think it's interesting because I'll be in conversations where business leaders will be talking about, because AI is growing in our business as well, you know, oh, we should do that, let's start building a plan for it. And my first thing is, what talent do we need? And do we have that talent today? If we don't, what does that look like? And how do I ask the questions to plan out a year from now so that we're already building the profile that we're going to need for the future talent to build that concept into our product? And so those are the things I think about when I think AI, but one element.
I just love the future, your vision, and we're always, one step ahead.
I think we have to be. I think we have to be. And I mean, it's interesting because when you first asked that question, I think about data because I feel as much as we just put an HR system in, a new HR system in, and so we're kind of trying to mature its use, its ability to get the data we need. And I thought about that and I thought, but we're behind, right? Like I want to use data more maturely, but I know our function is behind where we should be. And so I don't end up saying that that's the future. That's where I need to be in order to evolve, like you've said. Like some organizations aren't there yet, and our job is to get them there, right? And to drive it forward.
It's tough, I think, as a leader, because have you ever arrived? As soon as you get close to that future destination, you're already another year out.
No,
Exactly.
So it's really about
successful
right now.
They're never evolved, right? They're constantly learning and learning from each other. And I think when I look at AI, I think it's a huge benefit to help those that are looking to move to a strategic role, because it can take care of a lot of the transactional tasks. I'm a huge ChatGPT fanatic for my team, and it's job descriptions, it's Spotify ads, it's employee communications. It's when your HR is not necessarily always the most creative department, so when you're having to write an employee communication, write a policy, whatever, you can go into ChatGPT. You're not giving up any company information because you do have to be careful with that. But it's a way to take away that administrative function and the time it might take somebody to write a job description. I can have a job description in 30 seconds flat. And yes, you have to critique it a little bit to match the organization, but let me tell you what, it was pretty amazing for my Spotify ad I needed.
Nice.
It got me there in 30 seconds flat, and I was roaring to go. So
It's
I love
funny.
the efficiency.
yes.
It's funny you say that. For both job descriptions, I found it incredibly helpful to even just remind me what to not forget in a job
Exactly.
description for a leadership role, because you chat GPT it tells you what should this kind of role do.
Yes.
And I take that and tweak it, and it saves so much time. You don't start with a blank sheet of paper.
Yep.
The other thing we used it for, which I thought was really fun, we had a team building. We used DISC, and a member of my team took all of our DISC profiles and put it into a ChatGPT model, and it wrote a story about each person. It was wildly accurate. And I thought, how did that do that? Right? But it's very interesting. There's so many ways you can leverage it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this last question, we've only got about 45 seconds each, but I do want to cover this. So I want to talk about politics. So in light of the election coming up in November, and then also with politics, I feel like coming up again and again and again, how do you talk about politics at work, or how do you coach other executives to talk about politics at work? And it's a broad stroke of the brush on purpose to give you some creative license on how you want to answer it.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, at least for me, it goes back to respect and kindness, because we all have the right to believe what we believe. We've been raised the way we've been raised, all different, unique individuals. So we have the right to believe and behave in different ways based on our thought patterns and how we've evolved. And so it's going back to the core fundamentals of respect and kindness. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you support. I'm going to listen with intent of respect, of listening, and I don't need to argue at that point. You have the right to believe what you believe, and I have the right to believe what I believe. So it goes back to those core disciplines of whether it's politics or, there's so many different topics today that everybody's polarized in, right? And it's going back to we can treat each other with respect and dignity and be kind to one another regardless of, you might like McDonald's and I might like Burger King. Who cares, right? That doesn't matter and doesn't change who we are to the core.
Monica, last word on this one?
I will add, I completely agree with you. Trust and respect and honoring one another's point of view is huge. I will add a component of when there is a political shift in the landscape that affects business decisions, right? That affects business decisions, that affects how leaders make decisions about the strategy and about what work we drive forward. I completely agree with that sentiment and think that the company has to think really carefully, when I say the company, the leadership team, about where do we put our stake in the ground regardless of what social and popular kind of political points of view are wielding all over the nation. And I say it that way because there's certain things that will become a trend. Like one day DE&I is really popular, and the very next day, let's not talk the E anymore, right? And I think about that and say, and we are business leaders for a reason. We should come in with courage to say, okay, that may be a social norm that's moving a certain direction for the nation. However, we actually have some key things we still do in that space that we think work well for us. And the decision then we get to make is, as a leadership team with the open trust and conversation around how it affects our business, is to make a choice. And to then stand by that choice as a leadership team that this is the direction we want to go because it serves our business well and our employees.
Absolutely.
It's like you said in your presentation, as a strategic leader, you're always reflecting. You always make time to reflect what's working and what's not. And if it's working, let's sustain it and keep a good thing going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you both very much for allowing the Q&A to happen, go a little bit deeper in today's topic, this month's topic. As you can tell, there's just a lot of value with being able to compare and share best practices with your peers. And so if you're an HR leader looking to continue to learn and grow, and you want to, as we talked about this morning, tap into a peer group, we've got a group for HR managers, HR executives. In fact, if you're another functional leader anywhere in manufacturing, you want to go even deeper and get to know a group of your peers really, really well, so you can be more open about some of the issues that you're facing and get their feedback. Check out one of our peer groups. There's a form right below the player. You can just fill out that form, and then we'll see if we have a group that's a good fit for you. Otherwise, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next month.